freeway. That's an important one. And but also, there's so much that the management district is doing you don't often see. You feel it, you see it, but you don't necessarily know all the work that has gone into it. And also for our candidates to realize that this area is growing at a rapid rate. And while the freeway construction is very painful, it's also transformative for the community when it's done, if it's ever done. So I drive this route myself quite a bit. So we have a lot of new development and construction going on in the area. We're seeing really rising resale prices for single-family homes. Demographics are shifting. You're seeing more educated and highly paid professionals moving into the area. One of the things that Councilmember Stardick has worked so hard on with the district is clearing out abandoned apartments. I know, Rep. Turner, you've worked on that as well. And it's been a huge change for the community. And it's always a work in progress. Still working on that, but many of the most abandoned ones have been cleared out. And the good news about that is new, higher quality, higher rental rate places are coming in their place. Crime is down significantly in this area. Obviously, that often goes with changing out the multifamily units. And the district continues to encourage economic growth and works with all their partners, residents, commercial properties, and retail businesses, as well as industrial properties. As you know, this district management district spans a large area, and it contains both residential, retail, industrial, a lot of different impacts, more than some of the other districts around town for certain. So with that, we're going to start our forum. I'm going to do a quick introduction. Hopefully you've heard of most of these people by now. So I'm not going into long resumes on each of them. First we have, and they're in alphabetical order here. No favoritism to anyone. Chris Bell, who's a former city council member, a former member of Congress, and has been engaged in Houston and Texas politics for many years. Adrian Garcia, who is a former sheriff and a former city council member as well. Prior to that was a police officer. Ben Hall, who is an attorney and ran last time for mayor and is very involved in the community. Bill King, how do I describe? No. Bill King is a business owner and also a former columnist for the Chronicle. You probably saw his name if you ever read the editorial page. Marty McVeigh is a business owner and very engaged in supporting in community. Representative Sylvester Turner, whom I've known all my life, I think. No, at least the adult life. Actually, I've known most of these people that long. But Rep. Turner has been the state rep for 26 years. And you all should know, I guess he represents a good part of the near northwest area. So with that, we aren't going to do opening introductions. We're going to have a 2-minute closing. So, no opening. We're just diving right into the meat of the matter. So you can tell us more about yourselves in the closing if you choose to do that. Hopefully we'll hear about your campaign passions as well. So, are we ready, timekeeper? Oh yeah, I'm going to do it too. We do apologize to you for starting a few minutes late, but as you know, it can be a little challenging to get here, right? Okay, I'm just going to do my own typekeeping too, so we... All right, ready? All right, and we're going to ask 4 questions, and then we're going to take a couple of audience questions, and you'll all answer the same question. So I'll start with Belle, and then we'll rotate, okay? Is that okay?
Sure.
You want me to start on the other end? I'm easy. Well, okay, we'll start. Well, we'll just start with Rep. Turner. All right. As you may know, the city opened a new permitting center, and for a time the process was smoother. Between the multiple city departments that require permits from businesses, however, the process is impeding growth in our area and across the city. Permitting has become the bane of business as they try to grow and expand. How will you address this situation and speed up the city's permitting processes?
And thank you, and thank you all for being here this morning as well. Let me just say on permitting, at one time you get a permit in 7 days. Now it's more than 28 days, and sometimes it's even longer than that. There certainly needs to be more strict. Well, I'm saying it's sometimes it's much longer than that. One of the things that I've talked about quite a bit, and that is to engage what I call express permitting. Instead of people who are seeking permits for residential housing or small businesses that are not nearly as complicated, take them out of the long line. You can still go through the regular process for everyone else. I know the city has turned to expedited permitting, that if you pay $126 for a residential permit, you can get that on the expedited system, $450 for commercial, you can do that, but you shouldn't have to pay to play. Utilizing technology a lot more, online permitting, I think will help out quite a bit. In 2011, 2012, there were like 14,000 permits being sought. In 2013-14, the number went up to 20,000. And so we certainly need to make sure that you have the labor force, the staffing to do that. And then in public works, they've done something. They have one-day permitting, where you bring all of the inspectors to the table at the same time, so people don't have to keep going from one person to the other. I think we need to utilize that even more. And then, of course, planning and public works need to be working much, much better together. This has been a problem that's been ongoing for years and years and years. We hear about it in every mayoral cycle. I think the bottom line is results, and the mayor has to be hands-on.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be here with all of you today. I'm a businessman. I've created over 14 businesses and helped save over 60 around the globe. And one of the things that I continue to hear when I get out on the campaign trail is this issue. It's planning and permitting, and what a failure it is. It does hinder your business. It costs you more money. If you're in a retail shopping center, it eats up your, any of your build-out allowance. And so what I see when I travel around the world is that I see good ideas in other places that we can bring here, and we're not doing that. I'll give you an example. Turkey has one of the best systems for this, and it's a one-stop shop. If you remember the Staples commercial, they have an easy button. We should have an easy button at the planning department and permitting. We need to have one person that is assigned to a permit from the beginning to the end. So obviously they're going to have multiple clients that they're going to have to deal with, but if you have one person that you know from the very beginning to the end that you can deal with, the process will go faster, the process will go smoother, it'll be more efficient, cost the city less, cost you less as an applicant for permitting process. It also cuts down on corruption. I don't mind to say this, but I do not trust the system. I do not trust the permitting system right now in the city of Houston. It is too vague. You have one officer coming out and giving you instructions on how to comply, and then you get another one about, next time you go down 15 days or 30 days, and they're telling you something completely different.
Okay, thank you. We did.
Time is up.
Time is up.
Good morning, everybody. So recently, I'm fixed base operation out at Ellington Field. And we've been in a construction program out there for the last 20 years, building new hangars and terminals. And we basically dialed in 1 year to get our permits out there. So I absolutely feel the pain here. Now, it's a little different building on the airport, a little more complicated, but still 1 year to get a permit is absurd. Look, there's all kinds of systemic changes you can make. You can talk about express permitting and doing things online. But at the end of the day, this is a culture issue. People down there don't give a damn about getting your permits out. That's the problem. And culture is only changed through leadership. And so we're getting ready to elect, for you guys to choose the CEO of a $5 billion corporation. And one of the really important jobs of that CEO is to choose outstanding leaders for these directors, people that care about things like customer service. I run businesses. You know, in a business, if you don't have great customer service, you go out of business. The problem is you don't put the city of Houston out of business. And so we've got to have a mayor that's absolutely dedicated to great leadership, putting in expectations for those leaders of those departments, and then taking action if they don't live up to those expectations. That's the job of a mayor.
Good morning, everyone. I was the former city attorney for the city of Houston. Some of you may recall about 20 years ago, I actually was your lawyer and actually provided all of the legal opinions in the city of Houston to Mayor Bob Lanier for 3 years, nearly 3 years. One of the tasks that I had as a city attorney was to streamline the permitting process. So this is more than just a concept or an idea. This is something that I've actually worked on. In the course of those 26 months that I was in that office, and that was after my first period, we were able to streamline the permitting process where you got a permit within 7 days unless it was an exceptional case. We were able to work that out because we had a standard form permit. The only exceptions were extended in terms of their review process. As your mayor, I intend to adopt the following plans, and I want you to know about them. Number one, we're going to decentralize permitting. You will not have to go down to Public Works in one location. I know all of us hate going to Walmart and having to stand behind a long line and one cashier to check us out. We're going to decentralize it so that you can have permits issued in each of your districts. Also, you can go to your local library and file an electronic copy of your permit application. There's actually an app and software program that will determine conformance of your permit application with the code. That's not something that an individual has to look at, and your permit can be issued at the local library. I look forward to answering more questions this morning.
Thank you so much. And before I respond to the particular question, let me just look over to my right, and we have a sergeant with the Harris County Sheriff's Office. They will be laying to rest, a colleague this Friday. Let's give them a wonderful round of applause. God bless you, God love you. To the issue of the permitting, let me just say that you give me permission to serve you as your mayor. I'll be dealing with a $126 million budget gap next year. Part of that is, I believe, contributed precisely to the permitting process. I mean, we want you to build something, but yet we don't want to give you a permit to do so. We want you to sell goods and services, but we want to give you a permit to do so. We want you to generate taxes for the city of Houston's economy, but we won't give you a permit to do so. And so it is just ridiculous that we're standing in the way of our own economy. And so obviously it requires us to make sure that that department is working well. The other thing too is that I just don't understand how we would have you go hire engineers and architects, then have your plans be second guessed by non-engineers and architects. That has to be correct. I think we need subject matter experts on the other side, so that we can talk to each other and work through those particular plans in a meaningful way so that we can ensure that our economy grows. But you need a performance-based system. I'm committed to working with you to provide that system that can give you your permits in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. Usually we only get together for lunch and dinner, so it was nice to be able to add breakfast to the schedule as well. I got to experience the permitting office firsthand. My house flooded Memorial Day, so I got to go down there and pull the permits. You can't ask for anything more in a mayor than someone who's actually gotten to personally experience the permitting process. It wakes you up to just how inefficient it is, and I think there's some ways to deal with it. I talk a great deal about technology and modernizing the city. Nowhere could that have a greater benefit than the area of permitting. It would greatly expedite the process. Much of the process could be moved online, allowing everyone to participate and weigh in and get the permits through the system much faster. I also agree that it's attitude. We have developed an attitude at City Hall to hold up permits instead of working with business owners to move them forward. When a restaurant owner calls up and says that his permit has been held up almost 6 months and he's going to go and have to appear before the public session of City Council, and then suddenly gets a call that his permit is again moving through the system, that's wrong. It should get bogged down in red tape. And I've said for quite a while now, if the City of Houston is going to go out and always say that we're pro-business, then let's be pro-business. Let's start acting like it and hold those folks accountable who are holding up the permits.
Very good. Hang on to it there, and we'll start with you this time, okay? All right. In the same vein, one of the things that we've seen in a recent study by the Daniel Rose Center of the Urban Land Institute is that many of our city departments are run in silos. This is also a problem with permitting, including the administration. So what are your plans to address this issue, and how will you make government more relative to the people? By the way, we've been joined by Councilmember Steve Costello, currently council member, and we're just diving in. Did you hear the question? How will government? No, because you're going to be second.
And I'll agree with Chris.
All right. So it's just about how our government runs in silos, and how would you change that, and how can you make government much more accessible to the people?
Well, again, a lot of it comes back, I think, to technology because of the way it allows you to communicate in this day and age and the amazing advancements that we've seen. It was a little shocked to learn that almost every city department has its own intellectual property division, and they don't necessarily communicate with each other. And so oftentimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. One thing that I proposed as part of my e-government plan, and I would invite you to read about it at BillForMayor.com, but it would change the way that we both manage data and analyze that data. And we would be looking at what is going on in the various departments on an ongoing basis and bringing the representatives of the various departments in on a regular basis to address those concerns. So whether you're talking about illegal dumping or police response times or increase in crime in a certain area, or pothole abatement, something that's on everybody's mind, we would have a much more efficient way of dealing with those problems, seeing the problems emerging on the front end and then going out and doing something about it. Also, by open sourcing data and providing access to that data to citizens, you can form partnerships with communities and neighborhoods. In this day and age, there's usually an application or a solution, and either a bright mind at City Hall or a bright mind out in the community who wants to work on that solution.
Well, I think the biggest issue that we have is each department head says, don't mess with my biscuit. And it's all about how the administrator of the city, the mayor, operates with all those department heads. And I would do the same thing I do with my own engineering office, is that we put everybody together on a weekly basis. We talk about issues that affect across all departments, and that's what really needs to start. It started at the mayor's office. As far as communication to the public and interfacing with the city, we need to do a better job of representing the city at meetings like management districts, at meetings like super neighborhoods, where we have representatives that listen to what the community is saying and then bringing that information back to the city for follow-up. And that's the one thing that I think is missing. I mean, we do have the Department of Neighborhood, and we do have representatives that come to the super neighborhood meetings, but it's not the flow of information from the grassroots through the city is not very well managed, and that's what we need to change. So we need to spend some time in figuring out how better to have that communication, because it's easy for us to say, oh, it's up on the website. Well, I don't normally even go on the city's website, and I work there. So I can imagine that someone that's out in the community probably wouldn't spend much time as well. So we need to do a better job of communicating the efforts and get a better appreciation of the problems on the grassroots level one day.
You know, the biggest challenge for big bureaucracies is resolving the issue of silos. And it is important that we all understand that those silos not only happen between departments, but they also happen within the respective departments themselves. I mean, how many times have you seen a sidewalk, for example, get put down, and then next week you see it get torn back up because a different area of the same department had a different project going that they weren't on the same page with. It is a wasteful use of our taxpayers' money, and so it has to be resolved. But so, bottom line is we got to make sure that the department directors and respective leadership mid-management is in tune with what we want to be, and that is a performance-driven city hall. And then engaging the public. So when I came in as a sheriff, we had a standard mode of public engagement. It was a couple of folks out in the respective control areas working with the community newspapers to and then we got a PIO at the main office. Well, we now have Facebook, we have the Twitter account, now we use the Nextdoor app. Those, we have to be as contemporary as the rest of society is, leveraging every single opportunity to take input and to provide information back to the community and make sure that there's an opportunity to validate it. Often when we would engage the public and they would express their concerns about crime, we'd come back and run some stats, and they were in line. So we have to make sure that we respect people's input.
The premise of the question is absolutely correct, and that is having disjointed attention given to your problems is inefficient at City Hall. That's a true premise. So let me tell you how I addressed it when I worked in the city. I was getting recurring complaints from different departments that they needed legal advice from the legal department. And as a result, we were getting public complaints that legal was delaying getting out contracts. So what I did is I said, as opposed to you referring your matters to legal, I'm going to assign a lawyer to each department. Incredibly, that reduced our response time to 7 days on all projects. That's the way to go forward. Public Works had an assigned attorney. That assigned attorney had a form contract, and no longer were they referring it to legal and it being held up in legal. The way forward is to have combined provision of services. One additional idea is a mental health response team that I'm suggesting. As opposed to just sending police officers out on beats, when you encounter people who might have a mental illness, how about having a team of individuals that have mental health training or a certification so that they can realize Johnny doesn't need a bullet, Johnny needs a pill because he's off his medication. I believe that's the way that we need to go forward, and that's the kind of mayor I'm going to be.
So one of the things I've learned on the campaign trail, frankly, is just how flat the city's organizational structure is. If you take about half of the super neighborhoods in this city, if they were their own city, they would be in the 20 largest cities in the state of Texas. They would be electing their own mayor, their own city council, setting their own budget, hiring their own police force. They would be doing all the things that we did down in Kima when I was mayor there, notwithstanding the fact that we wouldn't even be a good-sized civic association in the city of Houston. And I think that's a very, inefficient way to run the city. I think we've got to figure out a way to empower the neighborhoods, to give them more say about what goes on in their neighborhood, more say in how tax money is spent. We started this super neighborhood project about 20 years ago, and that structure has essentially been gutted over the last 20 years. We used to have SNAP. Some of y'all may remember that. That's all gone away. And I find all over this city, like your neighbors down to the south here, they woke up one day and the city was going to widen Gessner from 4 lanes to 6 lanes, which would have been incredibly disruptive to that neighborhood. And there was absolutely no reason to do it. Gessner's in great condition. Yeah, there's a little traffic, but expanding to 6 lanes wasn't the answer. And nobody talked to them. It just showed up on the CIP one time. I think we've got to change that dynamic and start re-empowering the neighborhoods about what goes on in their neighborhoods and how resources are spent in those neighborhoods.
I think this is probably our 26th forum or something. I've lost count. 30 seconds ago, this. I don't doubt it. 26 or 32 times I've said this, that the city operates in silos. The city is inefficient. As a business person, as a CEO, I recognize that that creates incredible risk to the city because at the end of the day, the city is a service business. And you cannot provide services to the people that need them when the city is inefficient. It is a reality that our city is growing by hundreds of people per day. How are we going to be able to maintain those services without the city being efficient? I was honored to be appointed by President Barack Obama in 2011 to be one of the directors of the United States Agency for International Development. And in that role, I assisted the agency, a $22 billion government agency, in bringing a whole-of-government approach to governing that organization. And that means sharing information, sharing resources, sharing opportunities, looking for risk, and that's what the city is not doing right now. And what happens is that you have a lack of services that are provided to you. It's inefficient when the government must return to you and say, we've got to cut something. We've got to take away from you because we've mismanaged. And I think just by, having that efficiency, a whole of government approach will save a lot and will provide more services.
Thank you.
Time's up at the end.
When you're dealing with a small organization or a large one, the first thing at the top is the leadership, because the leadership is going to set the tone for everything down below. Leadership has to provide the goals and the objectives. What is it that we're trying to achieve? And then you have to make sure that you have the right model in place to achieve that. I think in any organization, when you're dealing with people below, there's a tendency to be territorial. You have to change the culture, and you have to constantly remind people, who do we work for? You tell your employees and others, we're not working for a department head, we're not working for some personality, we're working for people themselves. The people are the customer, and that's who we work for. And so you have to break down that territorial culture. Sometimes you have to change the organizational chart. And sometimes you have to recognize, just like in permitting, bring all the people together who are responsible for permitting. And then you have to say, these are the results that I want to see happen. And the leadership has to say to everybody down below, this is what I expect, and this is what I'm going to hold you to. And at the end of the day, I'm going to determine whether or not you see it. Other thing, you have to lead by example. If you live in the city, you live in the county. The mayor has to be talking with the county commissioners, and working in collaboration. You have to show by example. But at the end of the day, we are customer driven. We provide a service. The city is in there not to protect government, but to make sure that you can do your business and you can do it well and get us out of the way.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to skip around a little bit because, you guys in the middle never get to go first. so Bill King, we'll start with you this time, and we'll go this way and come around. All right, the city is facing the stark reality that unfunded debt for pension and benefits are potentially leading the city down the road to bankruptcy.
Should I give Bill's speech on this one?
Yeah, I just get you to believe it. We really
Can you tell these folks have become a traveling roadshow? All right, so how would you address pension reform?
Yeah, so as some of you know, I've written a little bit about this subject over the last 8 years. The fundamental problem is that we need to do what a private industry did 20 or 30 years ago. We need to migrate away from defined benefit pension plans to defined contribution plans. Look, I'm not one that thinks that you try to take away or try to claw back benefits that have already been earned. I think our elected officials made some bad deals for us in the past, but they were our elected officials, and we did make a deal with these people. They've given us their service. We can't give them those years back. You can't take away benefits that have been earned. But to continue to make these promises to new employees is completely irresponsible. It's irresponsible to taxpayers. It's irresponsible to the members of these plans. It's irresponsible to the new employees, because I can promise you the kind of benefits we're promising, for example, firefighters right now, we will never be able to pay those benefits in 30 years with the way the system is working now. Let me give you just one quick metric on this. Last year, we should have contributed $400 million into the pension plans. Now, we didn't do that. We didn't have the money to do it. But had we contributed $400 million, it would have been 42% of all the property taxes you paid to the city of Houston last year. By 2020, these plans will take 50% of the property taxes. That's before you hire a police officer, buy a fire truck, fix a pothole. This system is absolutely unsustainable, and it's got to be reformed, and we do the same thing that private industry did 20 or 30 years ago.
Thank you. We'll come this way. Ben, you want to take it?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to answer this question. Let me kind of tell you how we solve the problem. I agree that we have to move to defined contribution. It's like if you go to Luby's and get a Luann platter as opposed to a la carte, right? You have a fixed price for what you're going to get. That's what we're telling the city employees. Also, the Constitution of the state of Texas requires that under Article 1, Section 17, that we honor past contracts. So the bill does not answer this question. How do we fund the legacy obligations? In other words, he says, yes, these bad deals were made, but he has no solution on how do we fund it. I do, and let me tell you how. Right now, there are $458 million of your tax dollars tied up under private management called TERS. As your mayor, we are not going to raise your taxes. It's not necessary. That excess money right now is so large that one of the TERS is designing a $200 million bus line that goes only from West Park to 610. Guess what? You can't get on it if you're on the metro system. It's only those people who are on Postal between West Park and 610. As your mayor, I intend to bring that money back into the general fund, use it to pay down the legacy pension obligations, and at the same time have a defined contribution plan going forward.
You know, as I mentioned, in next year, $126 million budget gap. Part of that is the pension obligations. We're currently at about $3.6 billion unfunded pension liability. It's a huge issue, given the backdrop that the operating budget for the city is over $5 billion. It's almost exactly the same amount that we're using to run the city. In 04, when I got elected to the Houston City Council, we were facing about $140, $150 million budget gap. Mayor White and I, members of council, we sat down and started the reform process. I invited colleagues from the Houston Police Department to sit down with me to hear and hear the issues and hear the data and have an open and honest dialogue about what was in front of us. You know what the feedback was? I don't like what I don't like that we are going to talk about this, but I'm glad you're working on it. And the solutions that you're providing don't scare me. And so, thank you for working on it. And we provided some reforms. It is the same process that we have to do going forward. We were able to do reforms with municipal employees and police pensions. We have yet to be able to deal with the fire pension. That is going to require legislative change. It's going to require the ability to get local control back to Houston. Local control doesn't mean taking their pensions away, but it means being able to set the table so that we can have a conversation, open honest dialogue to negotiate.
So here's the reality. We cannot flick a switch and automatically go to a defined contribution plan, period. Because we will still have a multi-billion-dollar unfunded liability. The solution is local control. I drafted a bill. It was carried before the House this past session. I was the only elected official advocating for local control and testifying on behalf of that. So here's the reality. The city of Houston has local control of our healthcare system. So this administration, with my colleagues, Councilmember Stardy, we were able to make adjustments to the plan, and we've lowered our healthcare unfunded liability from $3 billion to $2 billion. Local control. That's what you remember when you leave here today. There is a solution to our plan. We have to make modifications to the plan. So if you simply control and limit the automatic cost of living adjustments to all 3 pension systems, if you abandon and freeze the deferred retirement option plan, here's what you get. The unfunded liability of $3.2 billion disappears. All 3 pension systems are more than 100% fully funded, and the city nets $200 million in real cash every year. Real cash. So that we can put more police officers on the street and we can do more investments in the communities we want. That's what it is. And before you leave here today, remember 2 words: local control.
I had not heard the Luann Platter comparison prior to today, but I didn't relate to pensions, but I liked it. The only difference is that when you're going through the line, you really don't have to negotiate to get your fried chicken or your mashed potatoes, or utilize a large degree of diplomacy. They just kind of give it to you when you ask. And it's not that simple when we're trying to work out the pension deal, because there are a lot of moving parts here, as you've heard. There are a lot of different factions involved, and there are a lot of different opinions. And as the Houston Chronicle has correctly pointed out, the next mayor is going to have to employ a large degree of diplomacy to get the various factions to the table to negotiate a sustainable deal going forward. Is it going to be easy? No. But I refuse to be the voice of doom and gloom, because other cities have faced far greater financial challenges than the city of Houston, and they've been able to deal with it. We faced big problems here in the city of Houston before, and we've been able to deal with them. And I think that if we can come to the table, we can recognize that the current path we're on is not sustainable, and we have to work out a new plan for the incoming firefighters. They don't want that. They don't want a 2-tiered system. Everybody understands that. But at some point, the political and financial reality is going to have to set in, and we're going to have to come up with a new plan.
Let me just say, number one, the bill that Steve is referring to in the legislature, neither Republicans nor Democrats said yes. It did not even get out of committee. Number two, there are 5,300 police officers in the city today, less than the number that existed 10 years ago. Roughly 1,900 police officers are eligible to retire right now. There are 4,000 firefighters. Approximately 1,400 are eligible to retire right now. If you do not work out something and you bring them to the table and force them to the wall, what do you think police officers and firefighters will do? They will do what they did in Memphis when the mayor and city council forced a radical change. They said, thank you very much. We are eligible to retire. We are retiring. And the city of Memphis is having a hard time recruiting police. That was in the Wall Street Journal. With respect to the whole pension issue, please bear in mind, the legislature does not meet again until January 2017. The earliest you can get anything out of the legislature is September 1st of 2017. What Senator Joan Huffman and others have said to me, Sylvester, we will work with you. Because if you look at the employee retirement system, which was actuarially unsound, $7.5 billion unfunded liability, costing you $500 million. As of September 1st, the bill that I helped draft with my name on it, not costing you $500 million, actuarially sound, the bonding agencies have given you a thumbs up. And that's why police and fire have said to me, Sylvester, we will work with you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. This is a problem that was created by politicians that mismanaged and made promises. Quite frankly, no politician can get us out of this. We need a management solution. We have to bite the bullet. We have to trade debt for debt. We have to bond this debt and move forward with a new deal with the pensioners that does not bankrupt the city. It is unrealistic that we have folks that come to this and look at it and say, okay, we're going to just have local control. That's quite frankly ridiculous, because we have to go to the legislature and say, can we have our power back? They're not going to give it to us. We have to work with this, with what we have, and we have to bond the debt and move forward. The city's got to bite the bullet. I think that when you look at your next leader, you need to look at someone that is a CEO that understands what finances are, that understands that we can't make bad deals that are unsustainable. The day this deal was penned, it was unsustainable. We cannot have a solution like Mr. Costello suggested, because we will have 1,000 police officers walk off the job immediately. They will retire, as Representative Turner said. That's unsustainable as well. We can't look to our police officers to balance the budget. We can't go back and renegotiate on a deal. We've got to make a new deal going forward.
Thank you. All right. This next question is one you don't get at every forum, I think. Really more about our community and things that we've seen in recent years. And so let me just ask you, we see a lot of changes and a lot of investment by the city in downtown, midtown, Montrose, the Heights, basically inside Loop 610. We've seen so much investment in those communities. We don't see that that extends far beyond Loop 610. So asking you, how will you serve the whole city? And while you're at it, if you don't mind, that's okay. Just tell us, you don't have to tell us what part of town you live in. Just let us know if you live in or outside the Loop. 610. Ben Hall starts first.
Well, I live outside the Loop, okay? I live here at Antoine and Memorial. I live in that area. But let me say, you have been neglected. Thank God we have Brenda Started, who's a strong voice for you, but you have been a neglected area. That's the fact. The transportation needs have not been met in this area. The streets are crumbling in this area. You have crossover traffic that's not being addressed, and you have this wonderful freeway 290 that I know that you like getting on every day to go home. But let me say this, as your mayor, I believe that every district, every place in the city of Houston has to have a strong representative in the mayor's chair, not simply in the district council member's chair. So Brenda, I'll look forward to working with you next year. But I cannot allow that last question to go unanswered in terms of some of the dangerous answers you just heard. When Marty says bond the debt, that's $3.68 billion. in 7 years, you'll be paying over $8 billion for what he's talking about bonding the debt. When Steve tells you that he's suggested some legislation to address pension reform, Steve was actually the chair of the budget committee as this problem worsened. Sylvester, while he's in the state representative office, has done nothing to bring this back to the city of Houston for us to control. He had an opportunity to do it. If he couldn't do it when he was in the state legislature, how can he dare think he can do it in the mayor's seat?
This time, let's go. Woo! It's a fire. This way. This time, we're going to go start with Bill. We'll go around this way.
I live 2 blocks outside the Loop in the Galleria area. So sort of sitting on the fence like I do on a number of things, I guess. It's the role of a moderate in the race, right? But I grew up down in the Clear Lake area. I have to say it's a great story. I went down to visit with a lady who's a Democratic precinct chair in Clear Lake City, who happened to be my daughter's first grade teacher. And so I met her at Starbucks, and I walked in, and she had a gentleman sitting across the table from her, and what I didn't expect, and she introduced him. He was the Republican precinct chair, in a particular precinct. She was the Democratic precinct chair in that precinct. And they sat down, they said, you know, there's a lot of things we disagree on, but one thing we do agree on is the city's screwing Clear Lake City. And so I know that's how people out in the suburbs feel. And if you look at the folks that endorsed me, almost all the suburban groups, from Spring Branch to Kingwood and Clear Lake, are endorsing this campaign. Because look, I understand that all of the vast majority of infrastructure money has been spent inside the loop. You know, District C got 21% of the CIP money, and a lot of these folks that live in this race and live in District C. District E got 3% of the CIP money. 7% of that. So look, this has got to be equalized. One of the reasons you have investment in those areas because that's where the city's investing its money.
Well, you never go over time. It's
Something I feel pretty strongly about. I've got a few things I'd like to say about the pensions as well.
They cut you off. I live in the Falls Six. If you were out at Acres on the other night. I do live inside the loop. Most of my life here in Houston, I live outside the loop. So it is a very fair question. It's a very fair statement as well. That, the city has, at least in this administration, has operated inside the loop. It is a bubble. Services and improvements primarily get handled in earmarks inside the loop, with the exception of a great city councilwoman that you have. It's remarkable. I think that we need to realize that this city is large, 650 some square miles that we have here, and mayor must govern all of that. And it's a shame that we have ditches and unimproved areas in this city, and then we've got great streets and boulevards in other parts of the city. We have to look to all that. Now, I want to just get back to my friend's comment about the debt. When you find yourself in a financial hole in Texas, the first thing you do is stop digging. And that's what bonding the debt is. It will cost money, but it is necessary. And I've got a plan. I didn't hear Ben's plan because I don't think there is one. So we've got to bite the bullet and move forward, and I think that's what we need to do.
Thank you. I've had the privilege of living in the Oaks of Inwood for 24 years. I grew up on the north side. I went to school on the north side. I go to the grocery stores on the north side. I was certainly sorely disappointed when Kroger's left on Tidwell and Antoine. I've gone to the Foodorama stores on the north side. We have some of the best foods on the north side. Superintendent, to the board members, Aldine, proud supporter of Aldine. The Northwest Management District, it was myself who created the Northwest Management District in the legislature, and proud of it. This is a jewel of an area. I gutted my home a few years ago and rebuilt it right there as a statement that I intend to remain here. If you elect me as mayor, I will continue to live in the same neighborhood, in the same home that I've been for the last 24 years. I am committed. Oftentimes people think that the city of Houston is only 610 to downtown. Well, no, there's some valuable property neighborhoods with character and integrity that live outside. We need to give them the attention. Now let me shift to Ben. Let me just say, number one, I'm the only one that has taken a system that's actuarially unsound and made it sound. The only one. Number two, Ben talks about TERS. The report came out the other day. All of the TERS dollars are already encumbered and committed. You cannot pay for other services. You can't pay for pensions by utilizing the TERS. One thing I know, I've been in business for 32 years, a partner downtown, owner of a title company, and then in the legislature. It speaks for itself.
Thank you.
Apparently, we're not morning people.
That's right.
I live in Mayoral, about 3 blocks outside the loop, but for the issue of flooding, I think it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. And I will tell you why. Because if you run citywide and you have served citywide, something you recognize very early on is that we live in a huge, very diverse city. And anyone sitting down in City Hall pretending that he or she is going to be able to keep his or her finger on the pulse of everything going on in the city without reaching out to district council members, at-large council members, and super neighborhood groups and civic associations is simply kidding themselves, because you can't. It is a vast, diverse city, and that's why very early on in this process, before I ever announced that I was running for mayor, I started reaching out to leaders of the various super neighborhood groups to find out about their concerns. And once again, that example was driven home. In the East End, they said the biggest issues were affordable housing and stray dogs. Well, everyone here knows that in many areas of our city, no one ever sees a stray dog. They're just very different concerns in different parts of the city, and I assure you as mayor, I would do everything possible to keep abreast of what's going on and address those concerns.
I live 3 blocks east of Shepherd on a small street called McDuffie, and I'm a former Spring Branch resident. I think the issue that we're faced with here is what we call investment and proactive investment. The city is currently doing a general plan that's going to come before council within the next 30 days, and I support that general plan. Because what the general plan is going to do, it's going to help us decide where we put investment. And as an engineer, I firmly believe that infrastructure is the foundation of any economic development. And I hope that this plan will come out, and it will help us decide where we want to invest in the city, rather than being reactive to what's happening to the city. So that's what I look forward to do. Now, I've been before your group several times as a council member and as an at-large council member. My program that I advocated for, which was Food Deserts, which is trying to be grocery stores in underserved neighborhoods, is not only for public health, it's not only for job creation for young kids, but it's also an economic development tool for communities. Because once you're able to get a grocery store, an anchor store, you'll get other developments around the community. But it all starts with investment. It all starts being proactive, and it all starts with infrastructure. And I hope to be your next mayor, and as an engineer, I'll make sure we do it that way.
We live, my bride is with me, we live just inside the loop in Lincoln Park, which is not too far away from here. But as the District H Council member, I represent a significant area just outside the loop. And it is why I supported changes to Chapter 42, so that areas outside the loop could get some of the benefits that we had long seen happening inside the loop. But to that end, look, I look forward to working with Brenda and other members of council, creating a collaborative dialogue, helping us set priorities. The general plan is a good instrument, but you also have to make sure that you're putting your finger on the pulse with the people of the community, understanding what their needs and concerns are. Because sometimes that's not necessarily reflected in a document that you ask us to have to prepare. But I do support the idea that it will provide us parameters by which we can make some decisions. But it also is important that we use and leverage the tools that we have. Community agreements, tax abatements, rebuild use, making sure that rebuild use is working well so that you get the proper investment that you need to sustain this area. This area is historical. It's a great area. I used to patrol it. I used to come over here to Rufus Mall and do a lot of my shopping here. I used to play football just on the other side of the stadium down there. My wife used to be a cheerleader there. But it is important that we work together to make sure that everything that the community understands from the management district point of view, and from a community point of view, and from an elected official point of view, is at the table with the mayor's office working together to see it happen.
Thank you. All right, we have a question from an audience member, and she has asked for specifics, okay? Just saying. Although I think there was a little specifics on the pension there. All right, so what is your plan to reduce crime in areas that are plagued by high crime, illegal dumping, abandoned homes, overgrown weeds, high tax delinquencies, and also as a result of a lot of that, high unemployment? So it's a lot loaded in one question, but the root of it is crime. And we really haven't heard a lot about that on the campaign trail, so I think it's a great opportunity for you all to address it, and certainly it's something in the near northwest area that portions have seen, and we've seen the difference when the apartments are torn down that meet a lot of these criteria, how it can change the neighborhood. So let's talk about that in real terms. And Garcia, let's start with you this time.
Thank you. My mom gave me that question as well. Where are you, Mom? But listen, the specifics is this. Number one, people want to see police officers when they don't need them. I mean, we do a phenomenal job when you're called, but there's a problem already that's occurred. You want to see officers when you don't need them so that they can provide that deterrence by virtue of their visibility. But you also want to make sure that HPD has the proper technology and data sets so that they can go out and aggressively attack crime. Just like when I helped to create the real-time crime center for HPD, and there's one coming for the sheriff's office, I hope in the very near future. Providing that data so that we can be strategic in our approaches and resolve that. And not forgetting that my days on the Mayor's Anti-Gang Office, I worked very aggressively in this area, dealing with the issues that were prevalent back then. Making sure that HPD's gang task force is fully staffed and provided for to deal with the issues that are out there. But it also requires paying attention to the economy. That's why I want to make sure that we are strengthening our local businesses, supporting you as well in this area, while we go out and attract new businesses to further strengthen our economy. I'm a firm believer that when the economy is thriving, the city's moving forward, we have less crime, everybody's participating in the prosperity that's occurring, and it helps to strengthen the community. But we want to see officers when we don't need them, and I look forward to stepping it up.
Thank you. Stella, you want to pick up?
The stark reality is that we have 5,300 police officers now. We had 5,300 police officers in 2004. The budget in 2004 for the police department was $450 million. The budget for the police department today is over $800 million. There's something wrong there. Something has to change. Not only that, we have only 70% of the police force actually does police work. Why is that? Because in 2011 we had to let go 800 people. We didn't let go public safety people. We let go administrative and municipal employees. So now what happens is we took away the administrative role of that department, and now police officers are doing that. So that's a business model that has to change. And as a businessman, I'm going to work to change that. I'm going to work to get more police officers on the street. Now, Sylvester will tell you that he's proposing to get more 500 police officers back on the street through raising the revenue cap. However, that's a charter amendment that has to occur. And the earliest that he could do it, assuming that the term limit charter amendment passes in November, will be in 2017. Because of the way we set the tax rates in September of the prior year, we won't see any of that benefit until FY 2020. So literally that next administration would have to wait 4 years to implement anything that would be passed. We need to change the business model and the delivery model of the police department, and I look forward to working on that.
Well, I have been talking about it. I started talking about it when I announced in January, and have continued to talk about it wherever I possibly could. I think it's incredibly important, and I was as shocked as everyone in this room to learn that we had more than 20,000 crimes with leads that had not been investigated by the Houston Police Department. That is completely unacceptable. And my feeling is that we've developed this attitude here in the city of Houston that so-called minor crime really doesn't make any difference. But the problem with that is that if your car gets broken into, or worse, your home gets broken into, there's absolutely nothing minor about that. and you're deserving of an investigation because you've been victimized like any other victim of crime. And if we continue to write it off and just say, call your insurance company, it's just going to lead to more serious crime down the line. And we need a serious attitudinal shift, and I would demand that of my police chief. Secondly, here again, technology can make a dramatic difference, and if you don't believe me, if Jay Wall is still here, talk to him because he's an expert on it. Cities that have utilized technology to track crime and then moving more officers into those areas where you're seeing an increase in crime, it has proven to be the best deterrent, the best method of driving down crime, and we need to be taking full advantage of technology here in the city of Houston to drive down crime.
And it is true that HPD is administratively top-heavy, and we need to reduce the administrative costs and flow those dollars down so those dollars can be spent on additional police officers and investigating those 20,000 crimes that have not been investigated. That is true. Number two, if you go to my own, to justturner.com, I have outlined what we call Partners in Safety. It does call for adding 540 additional police officers over a 5-year period, costing $85 million, supported by the men and women of HPD as well. So that's critically important because they're understaffed, more people in the area, there's a tremendous need, and you have to have more police. Thirdly, if you live in the city, you live in the county. There needs to be greater coordination. Let's remove the territorialness between HPD, your constables, your sheriff department, because they all need to be operating in concert, and we need to have much more of that. Number four, Brenda's done an outstanding job of helping to tear down these abandoned apartments or condominiums. We need to continue that. You have to have a much healthier environment, or you creating breathing grounds. Fine, we definitely need to work with our school systems. We got to give people hope and choices. We got to educate them. We got to let them know that there is a better day. So you have to speak to the people themselves and speak to these families to encourage them, hey, crime is not the answer. I think if we do all of these things in concert, then we can start to reduce it, and that's why I'm pleased to have the endorsement of HPD, Texas Municipal Police, Texas Metro Police, and police and sheriff deputies.
Thank you, Representative. Brenda Stardig is great, but she doesn't wear a cape and fly around and fight crime all day long, so she needs help. She needs help. And help is on the way. The answer is 2 words. It's economic development. We're all business people. I understand that. You understand it. How do we get more services? It's through increased revenue, through economic development. We need new payers into our system, not just raise taxes on you. I do not support raising the revenue cap. I support bringing in new businesses into the city that do not currently exist here, like in manufacturing and technology, that will bring in new revenue and new rooftops into the city property. What you have to, if you ask the question is important, that means you're not getting something. The question has to be asked that why is crime high? It means that the government has failed you. We do need 1,000 new police officers on the street. They do need new tools, but that takes money. That takes management. And the way to do that is to get new payers into the system, not just raise your taxes. So it is a failure of government that you have to ask this question, and we keep coming back here every 2 years, and the questions keep getting asked the same. What are you going to do about crime? Well, what are you going to do about my job? It's all the same. It's economic development, bringing in new businesses.
So this gets back to what I said earlier about management and measuring the performance of your managers. And let me give you a metric. One of the things that a law enforcement agency ought to be judged on are how many of the crimes that are reported to them that they actually solve. It's called the clearance rate. And you may be shocked to know that last year, Houston Police Department only solved 6% of the burglaries that were reported to them. It only solved 15% of the robberies that were reported to them. Those numbers are well below the national averages. We looked around to see if we find what other law enforcement agencies do. The only one that we found with a worse record was the Harris County Sheriff's Office, which last year only solved 3% of the burglaries. The mayor's job is to be the CEO, to put the police chief in place and say, this is important to me. If that metric doesn't come up, you're going to get fired. Not to go in and micromanage and decide what kind of data processing, how it's going to be controlled, how you're going to organize the department. That's for a professional police chief, but you got to have somebody that cares about that. Now, on the abandoned buildings, let me tell you, I did a bunch of work with Bill White on this in his administration. We have 9,000 abandoned structures in this city that need to be torn down, and they are concentrated in particular neighborhoods. I promise you, if there's an abandoned house in my neighborhood over in the Galleria that had a bunch of garbage stacked in front of it, it would last exactly 15 seconds before the city got out there and did something about it. But they let it go year after year, and other neighbors of the city never do anything about it.
Let me answer this question specifically. This question I asked for specific policies. The mayor has one of two choices. Are we going to be tough on crime or tough after crime? The proposals on this side are after crime happens, let's investigate and find the crooks. That's one of Bill's big lines. How about taking a proactive step to prevent crime from occurring in the first instance? So how do criminals perpetrate their acts? They try and find spots where they won't be detected, where they won't be found out, and you can't investigate and find that they committed the crime. This is not always a consequence that you just are unemployed. The argument that we got to give them hope and get them jobs. Sometimes people who actually have jobs are breaking into people's houses and taking advantage of individuals. As your mayor, I believe that we need to deploy a new technology. You've seen in the Walmart lots or in the Luby's lots, you can tell where I like to eat. You've seen these camera devices that have cameras in 360 degrees. Well, those cameras actually reduce crime by 40% in those areas when they're deployed. Wouldn't that be wonderful to deploy those in remote areas where dumping is taking place so that criminals know their coming and their goings are going to be recorded and we can identify them. We don't have enough police officers in this wonderfully vast city to cover every stretch of land. And when you go to work, your neighborhood should still be protected.
Thank you.
I stopped. Oh, sorry about that.
He wants to...
No, thank you.
Actually, y'all should be thanking Brooke right here because she's doing a great job telling us.
All right, gentlemen. Now you have 2 minutes to talk about your own choice of topics. This is going to be good, I think, this morning. So let's start with Bell and we'll move on. We'll go back to our original order.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I hope it's helped you wake up a little bit, and hopefully it's been informative. My name is Chris Bell. I think I need to stress that more since Tuesday I was asked if I'd been the mayor of Kemah, and last night a gentleman asked me if I was the guy running around Houston talking about how I was going to fix up everything. I said, no, I'm not Stephen Costello. Apparently we all look alike. Anyway. Well, that's not true. I haven't been asked if I was a state representative. Anyway, I'm excited about this race. I did have the privilege of serving as an at-large member of the City of Houston. I had the privilege of serving as a member of the United States Congress, and I decided to get back in the political arena this year because I think that we are perfectly positioned here in the City of Houston to move to the next level and to become one of the most modern cities in the entire country. That will require new leadership, and it will require a willingness to embrace the amazing advancements in technology like other cities have done. I talk about it a lot because I do think it will be transformative for the City of Houston. It will give communities and neighborhoods an opportunity to partner with City Hall like never before. It will give us an opportunity to manage data, analyze data like never before. And I'm very excited to hear some of my competitors up here, my opponents up here, talking about treating citizens like customers. I started talking about treating citizens like customers and customer-driven government back in 1995. You can check my record. That's the way I will lead. That's the way I will treat you. And I look forward to being your next mayor. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here.
Let's hold our applause and just at the end, we'll give them all a big round of applause.
You have no idea as an engineer following Chris at every session. The person with the sense of humor, the person who's really matter of fact. What I'd like to have you think and ask yourself who better to deliver infrastructure to the community than your only engineer that's running to be your next mayor? Who better to solve the financial problems of the city than an at-large council member who's been the budget chair for the last 5 years? I know everything about what's going on in the city in terms of finances. I came here in 1977 to work for the Army as a civilian in Galveston as a drainage engineer. Now you fast forward, I'm the successful co-owner and co-founder of an engineering company in 1991 named after me, Costello. We employ 150 people. We're a service organization, a mirror image of the city of Houston, because the city of Houston is basically a service organization, except instead of having maybe 200 clients, we have 2 million clients. And I'm an at-large councilman who have seen parts of the city that I'm extremely proud of and parts of the city that I'm not very proud of, that I know we need to do a better job of servicing. And I'm asking to be your next mayor of the city of Houston. That can only happen in the great city of the city of Houston for someone who's not from here to have an opportunity to give back to the community. And I look forward to doing that. The issues I think that are pertinent to us right now are public safety, which is some of the topics we talked about today, infrastructure, the foundation of our community, which is what we talked about today, and getting our finances in order. And I think I'm the most qualified person to do that. And I look forward to being your next mayor and delivering on promises. My name is Steve Costello, and I'm respectfully asking for your support. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you again. I don't eat at Luby's often enough, but I do eat at the Red Onion, so let's give it up for the Red Onion. So thank you all for being here. My name is Adrian Garcia, and I want to be your mayor. I want to be the mayor of all of Houston. See, born and raised in this great town, I grew up in a tough neighborhood where tough things happen. But Houston gave me the opportunity to work for you for the last 35 years. As a Houston police officer, and from the front seat of that patrol car, I saw where government fails. Driving in neighborhoods that used to be thriving that are now attracting weeded lots and illegal dumping and crime. Then I served you as a member of Houston City Council, where I was the chair of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee, where I was the chair of the Minority Women Business Enterprise Committee, vice chair of Athletic and Drainage, and I served on Fiscal Affairs. And then I was Mayor White's Mayor Pro Tem. And so I served you as your sheriff, leading the largest sheriff's office in the state of Texas, the third largest in America. A workforce of nearly 5,000 employees and an operating budget of almost $500 million. But it was Houston that gave me that opportunity. And I want to make sure that that spirit of opportunity is still alive and well for the next generation of Houstonians. But it requires the attitude that the mayor understands that he will be responsible for all of Houston, every single neighborhood, from the west side to the north side to the east side to the south end of town. I want to be the mayor of all of Houston, working collaboratively with every single neighborhood, every council member, every super neighborhood, every management district, and every church, so that we can ensure that the economy of Houston stays resilient, strong, making sure that we remain the last into recessions and the first out of recessions. But it requires a vision and a willingness to reform and lead the process. I'm Adrian Garcia, and I want to be your mayor. Thank you.
I've learned in these forums to at least tell the audience about a little bit about me, because people may not know me. I'm a trial lawyer. I've been a trial lawyer for 29 years. I'm a businessman. I own 4 businesses, a radio station, a television station, a real estate firm, as well as a law firm. All of them are successful. Right now, this city is at the crossroads of needing an independent thinker. Not a politician, not a career politician, not someone who's been in office a long time, has a whole bunch of relationships, but an independent thinker who's going to work hard for you. That's Ben Hall. Now let me tell you how independent I am. Of all of the candidates that are up here, we have a proposition that's going to be on the ballot this year, the HERO ordinance. So let me talk about that. I actually have written the MWBE ordinance for the city of Houston. That's a Minority Women Business Enterprise ordinance that is intended to avoid discrimination based on race, sex, or gender. I know what it is to write a good law, and my law, the ordinance I wrote, has been defended in the court of law and upheld. I've read the HERO ordinance, And as a former city attorney, I'm telling you that that is a dangerous ordinance as written. As written, it will allow not only a physical man to be in a bathroom with a woman, but actually in the locker room as well as in the shower with her. And there's nothing you can do about it. That law says a man is no longer an anatomical man, it is how you feel. In a county where we have 8,235 sexual predators, and they can say that I self-identify as a female and go into a locker room with a woman or a child, it's dangerous. All of the politicians up here won't tell you that. I will. And as a result, if it costs me votes, I'm still going to tell you the truth. That is a dangerous ordinance as written. We need to rewrite it, and you need to vote against it on November 3rd.
Well, personally, I don't see much resemblance between Chris and I. But if you're confused about, all you need to do is look at our socks. Chris, hold up your socks there. So he gets his socks from President Bush, and I'm a little more boring. I said this. So if you're really confused about it, just look at our socks. I want to go back to the pension issue for a second. I know that pensions seem like a boring issue, but this is incredibly important because this is driving all the financial stress in the city, and frankly, it's the reason we don't have the money to put more police officers on the street, and we don't have the money to fix potholes and tear down buildings and all the things you'd like to do. If we don't solve this problem, it's going to require dramatic tax increases or dramatic service cuts, and we can afford neither. So first of all, the state legislature is never, underscore, never going to return local control so that we can cut existing benefits to employees. In Texas, as much as any place in the world, a deal is a deal, and they're not going to allow us to renege on the promises that we make. That is a false choice. It's not going to happen. It is no plan for solution. We also cannot deal with it without dealing with the debt that we've incurred. We owe about $4 billion right now. Now, if you're going to honor those promises, you have to pay back those debts. And by the way, there's not $450 million in the Turks. All that money is committed. And even if you brought back $450 million, that would be a tenth of what we need to solve this problem. Marty's right. We've got to refinance that over a long period of time. But the key here is getting to a defined contribution plan. And Sylvester's right. They modified the ERS in the legislature. What they didn't change the benefits. They left it as a defined benefit plan. They're still assuming that they're going to earn an 8% interest forever. You know what they did? They threw a lot more money at it. Employees put up another $250 million. You taxpayers put up another $250 million. We don't have that luxury of the city of Houston.
You know, out of the 32 debates or forums that we've had, Chris Bell does not tell the same joke twice. So he is very, very talented, and I appreciate that. It's the wicked wit of Chris Bell, as we say. Look, I grew up in a small town in western North Carolina, and it's very similar to the north side of the town here. I was the youngest of 6 kids. My dad was a former police officer. My mom was an entrepreneur, and they raised kids to make sure that they give back to the community, and that's why I'm here. I came to Houston for opportunity, and I realize as a businessman that opportunity brings people to a city. Opportunity can take them away at the same time. So we have to make sure that everybody in the next generation after us has the same opportunities that I had when I came to Houston. And when you look at our records and you think about what you want in the next leader of this city, if you want a CEO, there's business people here, you want a chief executive officer, you want someone that has done it. I've created over 14 businesses in my career. I've helped save over 60 businesses that are in trouble, and I see that the city has this unique opportunity where we're in a turnaround situation, but we've got opportunity at the same time. We have to get our financial house in order. We have to bring good management practices and best practices to city government, and we have to look for opportunity. It is not fair that we continue to raise taxes on the taxpayer, the business owners, when we're not doing our job of going out and getting new businesses to come in and share the load, and new rooftops. It can be done, it must be done, because we are operating the city inside of a donut. The resources are outside of the city now. They are in the woodlands, in the sugar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. MartyMcVeigh.com. Thanks.
Life and service are about relationships. Being an effective mayor, being an effective state representative, being an effective business. It's about collaboration and partnership. No one person can do everything by him or herself. In the legislature, I'm a Democrat, but I've been Speaker Pro Tem, the second in command in the Texas House of Representatives, under a House that's Republican controlled with a Republican Speaker, appointed by the Republican Speaker to be second in command. I'm Vice Chair of the Appropriations Committee. We've been dealing with a $200 billion plus budget. I'm the only Democrat that's been on the Conference Committee, one of 5, to help write and actually balance the state's budget, chosen by the Republican Speaker. When we faced a $10 billion shortfall in 2003, it was a conservative Republican Speaker who says to us, we know you know how to do the budget. We want you on the committee. We balanced the budget. In 2011, when we faced a $27 billion shortfall, there was another Republican speaker who said, Sylvester, we want you to stay at the table, help us balance this budget. And we did. Life is about relationships and partnerships. I've been on the Appropriations Committee now for 21 of my 26 years. And I think that speaks to my ability to work with others. In this race, crowded field, police, fire, and almost every law enforcement entity that has looked at all of us, standing with me. Right now, we are a divided community. We are buried the office of tomorrow. But we can only move forward if we are working in collaboration together. We need to come together. This is a diverse community. We're not going to see development on this side unless the mayor can work with the city council persons, unless the mayor can work with the department heads, and unless the mayor can understand that you are the customer and the city works for you. I live on the north side, educated schools on the north side. I've done extremely well. I've been blessed. But it's not because I'm just so smart. But my folks, my parents taught me, value people. Don't put yourself any higher. Work with them.
Thank
you can get things done.
Now, let's look. City elections have terrible history of voting turnout. You've got 7 amazing people here, all of them with great points and messages that would change the direction of the city. The main thing we want to ask of you is to get out and vote and take 10 people with you.